Save it for the podcast.
Oh, sorry.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dads of Dagobah. We are reviewing episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney+. What an episode. Darth Vader's in it again. And listen, Darth Vader's the best part of every episode, in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, a lot happened. But at the same time, I feel like not a lot happened.
This is a riveting review. I'm just waiting. It's just twists and turns here. Joseph, why don't do you have a word of the week this week?
Yeah, I got a word of the week. Here you go. The word of the week is don't put glass underwater. There's your word of the week.
Way
Reinforced glass. Oh, what? What's your word of the week, Sean?
I actually have two words. My first is kind of in line with yours, waterlogged. And my second is taxidermy. Because we got some weird, funky taxidermy shrine tomb happening in the bowels of Fortress Inquisituss.
You know, if we want to jump into that right now, I've got a theory about that.
Okay.
I think it's not trophies. I think they're going to be used. I think there's another use for them. I think they're using them possibly for. I think there's an overarching story that we're going to be introduced to. We were introduced to it in Mandalorian. We were introduced to it with Bad Batch. I think there's some cloning going on.
Oh man, we finally got to what it was because you prefaced that with like 15 different openings.
Listen, if you're going to
I'll tell you what I think it is.
If
Here's
you're
what
going to
I think it
critique
is,
my
and we've been introduced to
critiquing,
this before, and let me tell you, it might be this, and I'm about to tell you what it is, but it's definitely this cloning.
cloners.
So that would fit because it did look like they were in some straight up amber casings. Oh man, does that syringe hurt? Right into your shoulder. Oh,
yeah. This background obviously is from Jurassic Park. There it is. There you see it. Okay.
Promoting the new movie coming out this weekend.
That's right, this weekend. Are you seeing that movie?
Have I seen the movie?
Are you seeing it?
Not this weekend, but I will see it, yes, with one of my best friends.
And former guest on the podcast, Shane Kaysen.
That's true.
That's right.
Leave a comment down below if you'd like to see Shane again on the podcast. Let's start going through, like we do, the actual scenes and talk through what did not work in this episode.
Okay. So we start off the episode. Obi-Wan's get me to the Bacta. Gets placed into a Bacta tank.
Do you think that Star Wars were relying too much on the Bacta tank?
Yeah,
we're getting it a lot. Shows.
So we got it in Book of Boba Fett. It was pretty critical to the show. We haven't seen it in Mandalorian, have we?
Yeah, I don't think so. I guess we really only have seen it in Book of Boba Fett.
but then like two episodes. I mean, Vader obviously is always in Bacta, it seems. I thought it was pretty interesting seeing the two. It looked like Vader was upset that he let Obi-Wan get away, and Obi-Wan was worried about Leia, and also I think worried about Anakin as well, or Darth Vader.
Right.
Both in their Bactas doing their thing.
But Obi-Wan didn't stay in his Bacta very long. And I appreciated that because I didn't think we needed a full. I was scared we were about to be. He's in that Bacta the whole episode, and we're about to do flashbacks or something.
Go get a lizard up the nose somewhere, huh?
Or just see bantha carcasses as far as the eye can see.
They're on the planet. It's obviously not the rebellion yet because that hasn't started. But this seems like the path, right? There was some guessing that we would see Quinlan Voss. We didn't see him. I don't know that we will see him now. Quinlan Voss obviously is the guy we talked about last week, who was featured heavily in Clone Wars and a background extra and all that stuff. And it was interesting because now it seems like Obi-Wan has totally changed because he's now in such a protective mode around Leia. He's like, whatever we need to do, you guys are part of the fight now. We got to go get her, right? Like, as much as you guys don't want to be in the fight, you're in it because she knows everything and they're going to get it out of her, right?
Well, I have many questions about this whole sequence. Not many, but a few questions. Oh, you're frozen.
Man,
Oh,
I don't look frozen.
I can hear you fine, but you're okay. Now you're not. Now you're fine.
Okay.
Am I frozen?
Nope.
Okay. You know, Obi-Wan gets out of the Bacta and they're going and talking to O'Shea Jackson Jr. Don't know what his character name is.
Yep.
And they're talking about the path and stuff like that. And Obi-Wan, yeah, is all about we got to go get Leia. And I just felt like, one, who are these people? And all of a sudden, I don't know. It just was like a little bit rushed to me. I didn't feel the sense of that this was like a cohesive, resourceful team. And they were very easily convinced. Ed O'Shea Jackson Jr., his character was all like, no, it's a fortress. We can't get all this stuff. And then Obi-Wan's like, you don't know what the Empire can do. And all of a sudden, he's like, I know what they can do. They killed my wife because she was Force sensitive. If you want my help, you got it. I'm like, oh, we turned on a dime here.
I know. I think they had to get through that sequence pretty quickly to get to the Fortress Inquisituss.
But even in the Fortress Inquisituss, I felt like for most of this episode, and my wife corroborated this after we watched it. She said the same thing. She said, and I agreed with her, everything felt like it was too easy in this episode.
Huh.
Obi-Wan easily convinced the Path people to go on a suicide mission to try to storm the fortress and capture Leia. They barely any obstacles, it feels like, to get into the fortress. For most of Obi-Wan's time in the fortress, he only encounters like 2 stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
Like this whole thing, he's just walking around these hallways and there's nobody in these halls.
Yeah. Bone dry, by the way.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was I didn't dislike the episode, but I did feel like it wasn't super strong.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. It seemed like every problem that they faced, they quickly overcame, right? Whether it was she wasn't in the right sector to be in at the fortress. She's like, well, I outrank you, so I'm your boss, And then it's like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, I'll just easily overpower you and kill you. And, you know,
Easily overpower you and kill you 10 feet away from a desk that other people are still working at.
yep, yep, yep.
And I'm just going to hide the body behind this bookshelf over here
Yeah,
and
it's
go
like,
back to the terminal where there are 2 people still working at the
and
computers.
they're like 4 feet away from her, and she's talking in the microphone, like, okay, the hatch is open. I want to get the droids away from you.
You need a massive distraction? What? Oh, okay. I'm going to blow this whole place up. Everyone's about to die in here.
And what is this? Just like a little cubicle farm they've got going on? That was just like, I have some very important intel. I need to go sit at a computer. It's just like, okay, whatever. And then like even like Leia, I think one of the things I had a question about was how they were going to get around the fact that she can't use the Force, right? And I think we talked about previously, like I think it was I think it was my theory is like maybe Leia was using the Force when she was resisting interrogation in A New Hope, or maybe it
Yeah.
was just her awesome skills. And so I was thinking like, if how is she going to get out of this? Because she can't use the Force right now, and obviously she has the Force, she just doesn't know it yet. And like also like when she resisted the Inquisitor, like wouldn't that be kind of? I guess you just said you're strong-minded, right? She's like a Tridarian. Is she got some Tridarian blood in her? I guess.
I see what you're saying, and I thought the same thing. When Leia was resisting that interrogation, I thought in my head, wouldn't that tip off
Yeah.
Riva, the third sister, that maybe Leia is Force sensitive? But Riva didn't seem to let
Care.
on.
Yeah. Because
Now,
Ray resisted Kylo, right?
right.
Yeah. Anyway.
I also back to the beginning sequence with the Path people, and they were all concerned because Leia knew everything and was going to divulge everything. Maybe I forgot something for a previous episode, but how would Leia know where they were? The
But
only
didn't
exposure Leia has had to them is what Obi-Wan had in the last episode in that little safe house area. But
wouldn't she say we are going to get you to this planet, which is our base, where multiple paths lead?
oh, maybe.
Leia knew that planet.
Okay, maybe you're right. That's probably what it was.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they're just anyway. Yeah, they're just hiding a ship. They're hiding a ship in the clouds around the fortress, and like Vader has come, but do they not scan the atmosphere? Do clouds obscure ships?
because
Also, are there no security cameras? They have to rely on droids? I didn't understand that point either.
but they kind of alluded to there's no shields because no one would be crazy enough to try to infiltrate. But I have a hard time believing that the Inquisitorious squad is so overconfident that they have zero security in their fortress except for some seeker droids.
Yeah.
But and their head of chief of security officer, as long as you just kind of intimidate him and say, I outrank you, he'll fold immediately
Yeah.
and let
Oh,
you in.
okay.
Yeah, I felt like Obi-Wan going through the hallways with his lightsaber and fending off stormtroopers. I thought that was good to see. Okay, he's shaking off the rust a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
getting back into some form. We got to see some progressions for that so that when he has his next showdown with Vader, it's not just, all of a sudden out of nowhere he's proficient again.
Right.
And I think that it's similar to how every Star Wars character worth his salt or her salt now needs a Bacta scene. They also need their own hallway lightsaber scene.
Yeah, that's true. Did it look like he had a different form of lightsaber dueling too? Had like a anyway.
Well, it was very defensive, and I feel like the Clone Wars made a point of like that being his style was that he was one of the best defensive
Yeah.
fighters. And so it was he was able to very expertly, obviously, defend against those blaster bolts and aim those deflections wherever he wanted.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then we started to get the water coming through the glass scene. And I have to admit, I thought this is literally just a straight ripoff of Jedi Fallen Order.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Like a straight ripoff of them being in that same location fighting Vader and using the underwater tunnels and breaking the glass to save themselves from imminent death.
Yep. Yep. Uh there was also a little scene, a quick one with the two stormtroopers you mentioned, where like he like ducks behind something and like immediately there's stormtroopers right there. I'm like, do they not see him in the hallway? I don't under that whole like like that's a straight hallway. they obviously saw you, you know.
Yeah.
I did, however, like that when he was surrounded, at least the people behind him were still firing. They were missing terribly, but they were still firing their weapons instead of just standing there. A little Easter egg, I guess, is the breathing apparatus that we see in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when they go to the Gungan city. He uses that. Goes into the tank and pulls a stormtrooper in there and comes out of there with dry clothes and hair.
And
And
and inexplicably didn't think to just put the stormtrooper armor on.
yeah, why didn't he do that? It'd be too easy.
Well, have you seen these things on the internet talking about how each of the Kenobi episodes has like in a way been an homage to each of the Skywalker saga episodic films? So
No.
the first episode, they have like little Easter eggs. So like the first episode has Luke doing the pod racing thing. And episode 2 is like a planet that looks like the Coruscant underground with like the neon lights and that type of stuff. Uh Episode 3 of Kenobi is obviously the Vader burning
Uh-huh.
Obi-Wan like Obi-Wan did to him on Mustafar in episode 3. And this one was like Obi-Wan having to infiltrate a fortress to save Princess Leia, similar to A New Hope.
Oh. His little Padawan, because of her little Padawan braid.
Yes. And this scene was kind of an homage to when Obi-Wan's on the Death Star. He has to hide while two stormtroopers are going by, and he has to kind of do the little force trick to make a noise somewhere else, and they go run off in another direction.
What force power would you call that? Force
Ventriloquism.
noise making?
Yes.
What was that? Probably just a drill. um,
I thought it was a little dark that Riva was just unabashedly about to start mutilating and torturing a 10-year-old girl.
yeah, those scenes with Leia were odd. She was trying to play, she immediately started with bad cop, then tried to transition to good cop, and then went straight to evil cop. I was like, no one's looking for you. Oh, just tell me and we can send you home. That's it. You're going to the droid. you
That's right.
know?
You brought this on yourself. Like, okay. And we all calm down.
Someone today at church activity was saying that they think Reva's going to turn good in the end. What do you think of that theory?
Well, I don't know. Was it you who sent me the article, or did I read it myself that there's an insider leak or something that they've already changed Riva's
Yeah,
outcome from the
that
series?
was from Making Star Wars. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
the second season of Obi-Wan is most likely. This isn't going to end with this season.
Yeah. And apparently the original plan was for Riva to die at the end of this season, but they've scrapped that so that her story will continue into season 2.
That's what the story said, right?
Yeah. Um which makes a little bit of sense because I think they came out and said Kenobi was like the best Disney Plus premiere show that they've had yet
Oh, really?
in terms of viewership. I thought I read that, but I could be wrong. Someone fact check me in the comments below. Um, but and thinking about that, if that's true, and if this is only a 6 episode series, we only have 2 left, and a little bit, I'm like, these last 2 episodes have to be pretty stellar, fantastic, um, to close this thing out. I feel like if it's only I'll put it this way: if it's only 6 episodes, I don't think we've progressed at the pace we need to progress through the first 4 to have like a satisfying arc and conclusion for
Yeah. Yeah.
story and for Obi-Wan.
Yeah, because we
Because
still
I
need
still,
Obi-Wan to be the master and Vader the apprentice, right?
Right. And I feel like he's just barely in this one. We just start seeing a little bit of, okay, he's just kind of getting his feet back underneath him.
So, do you think if there is a season, we're totally going off rail. If there is a season 2, are we going to have a big fight scene with Vader? I mean, are they just constantly just going to have fight scenes with Obi-Wan and Vader, and Obi-Wan or Vader or so and so keeps getting away, and it's just kind of like this race across the galaxy of?
Or is it going to be that season 2 is part of the Kenobi show title, but Kenobi isn't really a main character in it anymore? It's
And
more Reva and
Din Djarin and Grogu.
Grogu. Din Djarin, I don't think is born yet, or is he? I guess he's
I don't.
born.
Yeah, I don't know. He might be a little baby.
He's a little boy, but Grogu could be in there.
Grogu should be in it if there's a season 2.
He was in Order 66, so and if you notice what he looked like in Order 66 versus what he looked like in Book of Boba Fett, identical.
Yeah, that's right.
So
No change.
no change there in terms of his growth.
We
But I
do have
digress.
I thought maybe they would escape through the water because I feel like that would be the easiest way to escape. Like, oh, I can go out this way instead of I have my people. Well, I guess they don't have breathing apparatuses for everyone.
Why
But
escape through the water when you can just put the 10-year-old underneath your trench coat and walk out the front door?
I forgot about that part. Oh my
Don't mind
gosh.
me, I just have a huge tumor on my right hip.
Who has 2 legs and is walking and occasionally pokes her head out.
Yeah. So that was another part that I was like, me and my wife were like, really? Is it no one's noticing this? No one's scratching their head like, what's going on there? Clearly that man is hiding something underneath his coat.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I also thought it was interesting when Reva knew that Obi-Wan was on board. In the city, she went parkour crazy and started jumping all over the place. And then in the Fortress Inquisituss, she just started walking quickly. Like, I'm going to get you, Obi-Wan. And I think it was interesting that the other Inquisitors didn't notice him walking by. They're still caught up in their internal infight, their internal fighting that they didn't even notice him, with 4 legs walking by. But yeah, there's a little fight scene, I guess you could call it, with the snow speeders. Um, I'm getting kind of tired of the being saved at the last moment kind of trope, to be honest. Is that
Well,
bad of me to say? I know it's quintessential Star Wars, but I kind of would have liked to them have been captured and like had to do something, but they got away.
I feel like I don't mind them that they didn't get captured, and I don't mind that they got away, but I'd like a little more thought put into it's. It seems very lazy that just walk out the front door, and then we're gonna have two, you know, T-16s or snow speeders coming in, and they're just gonna shoot everybody on the dock, and then we're gonna be able to get away. Like
Yeah.
that was the plan. Like to your point earlier, there's no security, there's no scanning going on for enemy ships in this around in the airspace around the fortress. Like,
And they just
what
let
is
him
going
go.
on?
There's TIE fighters hanging from the ceiling. Hop into
Yeah,
TIE.
and they didn't mobilize those after. Like nobody is. Anyway, it just seemed a little bit again too easy. Uh, Everything went right for them to, in a quick 39-minute episode, infiltrate what should be one of the most difficult places to infiltrate in the galaxy, but they could infiltrate it, and they were able to get out. And not that I want this character to die, but I'm like, at least kill off Tala, who was the worst spy in the history of spies, and just like walked in. I need a distraction. Well, I'm gonna walk in and play the double agent card. And Reva's like, I don't believe you. But then she somehow gets out anyway. It's like Reva, when the alarm goes off, Reva leaves, and then Tala kills the 2 stormtroopers in there. I'm like, these people are the most proficient assassin infiltrating espionage spies in the history of the galaxy.
Can I ask you a question, Sean? Just came to me at this episode ends. What do we gain from this episode? The start of the episode, Leia had been captured and Obi-Wan went to go get her. The end of the episode, he's got her, but now they're being tracked. And I'm like, so are they just gonna get him again? Well, like, what was the point of this episode? What was the point of kidnapping Leia in the first place? If we're just immediately gonna get her back, and
Yeah.
so easily.
I'm not sure that there was a lot of payoff or value to what happened during the episode. I think that the best explanation would be seeing a little bit more of Obi-Wan's progression with the Force and getting comfortable in his skills again and kind of embracing
True.
his Jedi skills. So I think we got something that out of it. I'm not saying that the way that they showed that was the only way they could have shown that, and that this episode was fantastic because of that. But I mean, we did get that. But yeah, I'm not sure that there was a whole lot of other payoff. I think that we do need to do a moment of silence for fan favorite character Wade, who did lose his life.
Yeah.
In this rescue mission. I will remember you.
Blown up
I'm
by an
tired. That's what
explosive
I'm
train.
tired of, Joseph. I'm tired of you introduce us to a character who maybe had one line, like 40 seconds of screen time, and then he dies, and they're doing this emotional music. And I literally, when we were watching, I told my wife, I'm like, I literally do not care about that person. Like, why do we care if he just died? And Corey was like, well, she cares, referring to the other pilot. Well, she cares. I'm like, well, why do we care about her? I don't know who that is. I'm like, these people aren't even part of the rebellion. These are just weird offshoot that we haven't fully even gotten a story for. Like, they're the path people. Who are we supposed? What are we supposed to call these people?
Yeah.
They're the path, the tour guides of the path. What are they?
I think one thing that I'm also disappointed in is how we've seen the Inquisitors. They've in Rebels, they were like right up there next to Vader, right? You had Inquisitors on your tail, or even like Jedi Fallen Order. They were scary. These are kind of dum-dums,
Yeah.
Like, first of all, the fourth brother or fifth brother, whoever it is, he's useless. What has he done other than stand back, let Vader do it, stand your ground, Reva, or what? It's just like, can you guys be cool for once? I thought for sure. I thought, oh, here comes the helicopter blades. When the ships flew away, I thought they're going to helicopter blade after. I'm like, that'll be cool. That will be cool. But no, they're just like a single crate. Oh, there's multiple crates over there. You could have thrown multiple. No, just one.
It is true. The fifth brother seems like all he has done is scold and chastise Reva. That's his only role.
She's the one getting results, boy.
She is getting results. But here's a question I have for you. Does Vader know that Reva kidnapped Leia and
No,
that Leia was in that fortress?
no.
But he does know that Obi-Wan was there?
Oh, so you're saying why did Obi-Wan come?
Well, mostly my question is, okay, they're tracking them now, but aren't they just immediately going to go to Alderaan? And isn't that what they would expect? You don't need to track them. They should be going straight to Alderaan to drop Leia
Oh,
off.
yeah. Why even track her in the first place?
Yes. What are you, Reva? Who are you tracking? Unless that she's assuming that they're going to the home base of the Path people.
Oh, maybe so. Oh yeah. Okay.
But I guess the point is that I think it introduces a lot of problems, and I think we talked about this before. It would be almost canon breaking if Vader knew that Leia was there,
Mm-hmm.
because then Vader would just know, I just need to kidnap or torture or whatever the Organas, and then I'll get Obi-Wan.
Right.
And he obviously doesn't do that. And so it's just this weird dynamic of he's he's coming in and force choking Reva for failing him, presumably because he knows Obi-Wan was in the fortress and escaped. But wouldn't Vader then follow up with, why was Obi-Wan in this fortress? And someone would say, he was here to save the girl we kidnapped. You kidnapped a girl? Who? Leia Organa, the Princess of Alderaan? And then Vader is not a dum dum. He would put together, oh, Bail Organa and Obi-Wan have a previous relationship. Bail Organa must know where Obi-Wan is. And then that would put Bail Organa into. So I don't get.
That would just break everything.
Yes, I don't get this weird cat and mouse thing we're playing of Reva has this plan that she's not letting anyone else in terms of kidnapping Leia Organa, and the Grand Inquisitor in Episode 2 is like, you kidnapped a senator's daughter, but obviously the Inquisitors aren't telling Vader that. But then at the same time, it seems like Reva is suffering the consequences with Vader for failing to capture Obi-Wan. So Vader knows a portion of the plan, but not the most important part of the plan that would break the rest of canon. So that part's a secret to him.
Yeah, it's like
I
these writers have put the self-imposed blinders on Vader. They're like, Vader can't know this, so he can't be here right now, and he can't find out, so we have to keep it from him somehow. How can we keep it from him? You know?
Yeah. And then he's about to, choke Reva, and because she's failed him. And then, she's just like, I did it on purpose. I put a tracker on him. And again, I'm like, what? Like, okay, you're tracking them for what purpose? I did. Okay, we already answered that. It would make sense if they're going back to the planet that the Path Fortress is on,
Yeah.
or the Path Hideout. So that would be legit. But again, I think there's too many um, kind of mental gymnastics you have to do to explain how Reva has this plan, and multiple people in that room know that Leia Organa was the prisoner that lured Obi-Wan out of hiding, but they're not sharing that specific piece of information with Vader, but Vader knows other pieces of information that let him know that Obi-Wan was there and they didn't capture Obi-Wan.
And he's not going to ask any further questions about what brought him there
Right. It just
because,
doesn't
yeah,
make sense.
yeah. I totally get it. I totally get it. That makes, yeah. Uh, anyway, I will say though, Vader basically running down that hall, storming down that hall. I was like, okay, here we go. And then, I was like, this is the best part of the whole dang episode right here.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that we don't really see the Inquisitors use the Force. We have only really seen Reva do her little mind extraction that Kylo does.
And then she stops or she throws the knife. Well, that she doesn't use the Force there.
Oh, she throws the crate.
Yeah, I'm talking about the first episode. It was the other Jedi that stopped the knife.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they don't. Man, they done. I hope we still have 2 episodes. There, I'm sure. Listen, last week's episode was so good, and we joked about a little one-off episode that would kind of. I don't think it was a one-off episode this week, but it certainly was a. Okay, that was fun. It was cool to see the base, but what did we gain from this? And I think you're right. We see Obi-Wan using the Force more. He's not, I'd say maybe he's 50% there, it looks like. But I don't know that I like. Is there any long term consequence to him being burned on the arm, or are we done with that? Is there any long term consequence? I mean, was it just like, oh, I got burned, oh, I need to snap out of it? I mean, is that kind of what we're getting from this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Like, I like that he now can use the force more, but I don't know that I like that we're not seeing why. Like, okay, he confronted Vader. He didn't use the force at all. He was inept, and when he was fighting him, that was very interesting and very cool. That he'd cut himself off from the force for 10 years, and he's bad, right?
yeah.
And I saw all these hot takes on Twitter and stuff saying, just people saying like, that was the worst fight scene. How come Obi-Wan doesn't know how to use the force? Like, no, that's the whole point of the Dak Gum episode. Like,
Right.
did you not understand any subtext? But now it's like, oh, he can use the force now. He just needed a soak. He needed to snap out of it.
Well, I agree 100%. And they took enough inspiration from Jedi Fallen Order with the Fortress Inquisitorius and the water coming through the glass pane and flooding the hallway that they should have taken a little bit more from Jedi Fallen Order. Because if you'll remember from that game, Cal Kestis, the Jedi, and the main character in that game, can't remember all of his training and all the force powers he's using. And he slowly remembers it through flashbacks and dealing with the trauma of those memories and opening himself up to memories that he had
Oh,
blocked
yep,
off.
yep, beautiful, yep.
I'm like, let's do that, Obi-Wan. Let's take a little back to nap and let's get some Clone Wars flashbacks with Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor live action Clone Wars flashbacks, and let's remember some of our force power training. That's what they need to do.
That'd have been sweet.
But I don't think that's going to happen now. I would be surprised if Obi-Wan goes back into the bacta tank. I assume that next episode they're going to be.
Is he just going to be good at the force now? I mean,
Okay, I don't know. Okay, so if we are still hurtling toward a Obi-Wan Vader showdown, I think a couple things about that. I don't think that's going to happen on Tatooine.
no, yeah,
I
can't happen.
also don't think it's going to happen on Alderaan.
No,
So maybe the Path hideout planet, whatever that planet's called, maybe that has to be the
maybe, yeah.
the site of this showdown. So Riva and Vader now are tracking Leia through Lola, and maybe that they're gonna show up at that planet, and that's where Obi-Wan makes his final stand, maybe protecting the guides of the path and their evacuation of their base, and then he's gonna best Vader, and then they'll all live happily ever after, and he'll drop Leia off at home on Alderaan and go back to Tatooine, and Luke is still playing Pod Racer.
None the wiser.
I am surprised that like the Larses and Luke have not been a factor at all in this,
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, we got a whole original trilogy of Luke Skywalker and his heroic journey,
right,
his
right, right,
arc.
right, right, right.
Um, but yeah, anyway. Okay. Well, for us thinking that it was maybe not the most memorable episode, we sure have been talking about it for a good amount of time.
I don't know. The more I think about it, the more, if we are going to be episode 6 is Obi-Wan Jedi Master, I don't know that we're there yet.
Yeah.
I thought for sure it was going to be a Qui-Gon sort of like, hey, snap out of it.
And
Like,
maybe that's what we get in episode 5. I agree with you. I think that there needs to be some
internal struggle or something.
quiet introspective type scenes with Obi-Wan where we have to see him deal with the past so that he can find balance and, fully tap into the force.
Yes. Agreed.
And in this episode, we didn't see anything like that. We saw him using his skills with the lightsaber and with the Force more than he had been, but there was no, accompanying character development type scenes or visuals to show us how he was, getting better.
Right. Other than 30 seconds in the back to, right?
Right.
I've got nothing else for you. This was I still think those Jedi in the basement are clone. It's gonna take the blood. I think there's all these new Disney Plus shows all have something to do with harvesting midichlorians or something. I think we're getting it in Bad Batch. I think we're getting it in Mando. I think we're getting it in Obi-Wan.
Rise of Skywalker.
Right? Yeah. I mean, because we have to end up somehow at Rise of Skywalker, right? They've got to tell this story now that they had a clone Palpatine. Talk about breaking canon.
They need a clone Palpatine, and they need Snokes, plural.
Yeah, the multiple tubes of Snoke. Don't get me started on that. Next week is another episode. We've got 2 left.
I think that this, fingers crossed, this will go down as the weakest episode of the series, and I feel like I'm okay with that. If this is the weakest one we get,
Yeah.
I feel like then it's still going to be a really awesome series. I still think episodes 1 through 3, especially episode 1 and episode 3, both I thought were exceptional episodes that I
agreed.
really, really enjoyed. And 2 was better than 4. But ultimately, I'm waiting for 6 because I need to see the ultimate showdown.
And I think we had it basically confirmed from Deborah Chow that the Grand Inquisitor is not dead. She was recently asked about his death and if it would break canon, and she responded, "Canon is everything. We did not break canon," and that's all she said. So I think that's pretty much confirmation that the Grandest Inquisituss is not dead.
And I don't know that we'll ever fully know, obviously, because we're not in showrunners and we're not producers and behind the scenes on this stuff. But I'll be curious if we ever find out if we can validate if that making Star Wars story is true, that Reva was supposed to die but now isn't going to die, and blah, 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 and if they changed that somehow last minute.
Oh, maybe so. Yeah, it seems interesting that they would wait for numbers from the first episode to premiere to then make a decision about season 2. Like, obviously, this show's going to do well.
Yeah.
Like, same with Dune, where they're like, we haven't approved Dune until the first weekend of the box office. Oh, it did well? Okay, it's like, no,
Right.
the movie's going to do well. Anyway. Well, that's it.
Well, that's it. Well, everybody, why don't you tell us what you thought of this episode down below? Do you think that Leia used the Force in resisting the interrogation, or is she just strong-willed and strong-minded? That's the most important question from this whole episode.
And is there a new Force ability called Force Hair Drying? Just whoosh, airbend the water away from you.
Yes.
Got to keep the hair pretty.
Leave a comment down below on your thoughts of this episode. Let us know what you would like to see that would be a satisfying character development in your mind for Obi-Wan unlocking his Jedi Master capabilities.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week. Leave a like, ring the bells, smash the like button, hit that subscribe, share the video with your friends and family. Go to work and tell your boss that this podcast has changed your life. Thank you for your service to the Dads of Dagobah podcast.
And we'll see you next time on the Dads of Dagobah. Sean, this is the way.
We have spoken. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.